Hello guys, I'm V Sai Srinivas of 10th class from Mathman. Today I will explain today's editorial. Let's get started. Today our editorial's title is Tightrope Walk. The RBI should not undermine its own credibility by delaying steps to rein in inflation. So, the RBI shouldn't lose its trust. So, if it delays, uh, the control of inflation, the government and people might lose trust in it, and it might weaken the association. Governor Shaktikanta Das' statement accompanying the RBI's latest policy announcement highlights that bind that monetary authorities find themselves in. While its central bank's growth supportive actions maintaining the benchmark interest rate at a decade low, ensuring ample liquidity and an accommodative policy stance, are yet to help engender a meaningful recovery. Inflation continues to disquietingly hover around the 6% upper bound of its mandated target. Governor Das acknowledged the RBI's predicament when he said before the onset of the pandemic, headline inflation and inflationary expectations were well anchored at 4%, the gains from which need to be consolidated and preserved. So, Governor Shaktikanta Das made a statement. So, the statement was regarding the latest policy of the RBI. This announcement highlights that the bind that the monetary authorities are in might be removed. So, the central bank's growth supportive actions include this. So, they maintain the benchmark interest rate at a decade or low, and they want to ensure sufficient amount of money available, and also a policy that would be very helpful. So these are all yet to be done. So they will help to get a meaningful recovery from the loss incurred because of the pandemic. The inflation still continues to warn, and also it is about 6% upper bound now. So the mandated target was lower than that. Governor Das knew that the RBI's predicament. He said that before the pandemic, the headline inflation and inflationary expectations were well controlled at 4%, but now they are at 6%. So the gains should be preserved and consolidated other than going to waste. Stability in inflation rate fosters credibility of the monetary policy framework and augurs well for anchoring inflation expectations. This in turn reduces uncertainty for investors, increases external inflation expectations. So it also increases external competitiveness and thus is growth promoting. It is this vital inflation targeting remit that the Monetary Policy Committee has temporarily set aside in the wake of COVID-19 and its brutal impact, while the central bank focuses its efforts on using all available policy tools to simultaneously preserve financial stability and support a durable economic revival. Still, the central bank's outlook for growth and inflation shows it is cognizant of the ground realities and the limits of its policy options. Inflation is a serious problem, and so this control of this inflation will create trust of the new policy that has been introduced. It would show that the policy is correct and there is no problem with it. Stopping inflation and also maintaining it at the right expectations is very important. So if that is done, it would lead to the decrease in the uncertainty for investors, and also it will increase external competitiveness, and all these factors would help in the increase of the growth of the economy. So it is vital that the inflation targeting remit of the Monetary Policy Committee should be set aside temporarily because a new wave of COVID-19 is coming and it will have a very brutal impact. The central bank cares about the efforts of using all available policy tools so that they could preserve the financial stability and also support a durable and good economic revival at the same time. The outlook for growth of the central bank and also the stability in inflation, there are very less policy options for that. Asserting that domestic economic activity has started to recover with the ebbing of the second wave, the MPC is hopeful of a bounce back in rural demand on the back of agricultural output remaining resilient, coupled with urban consumption recovering as the manufacturing and service sectors rebound with a lag, and as increased vaccinations and the current situation index of consumer confidence in its own July survey is still stuck near the all-time low called in May. The RBI has retained its full-year GDP growth forecast at 9.5%. The fact that it has at the same time lowered the Q2, Q3 and Q4 growth projections it made just 2 months ago by between 0.5 and 0.9 percentage points belies the uncertainty in its own outlook. With the monsoon rainfall deficit once again widening to -4% as on August 8th, latest Kharif sowing estimates revealing an almost 23% shortfall, and composite PMI data for July showing a persistent contraction in business activity and continuing job losses. It is hard to see either a near-term revival in demand or an easing in inflationary pressures from cereal and edible oil prices. Admitting the price pressures, the RBI has also raised its fiscal year inflation projection by 60 basis points to 5.7%. Also, with one of the 6 members of the MPC dissenting and voting against the language of the policy stance, it seems clear the central bank may sooner than later have to bite a bullet and start normalizing rates if it wants to avoid undermining its own credibility by delaying steps to control inflation. That's it, guys. Thank you.